Okay. Oops.
People really want to watch me talk with my mouth full?
Mm-hmm.
No, they don't. For all 11 people that are going to watch this.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about your reactions to Glinda.
Galinda. What's that? What is up with the whole Glinda? I mean, it makes sense with the character in the movie, but was it Glinda in Wizard of Oz? I actually don't remember.
Yeah, it is Glinda. Glinda the Good Witch. Of the yeah. The theme of the talking animals and how the goat can't pronounce her name, and so it becomes that whole scene of her like making fun of him, and everybody's laughing at him because he can't pronounce her name correctly. And then,
I mean, obviously, we're not supposed to like her. Although, I'm curious as to what part of the population or the audience would think that she's awesome from the start.
mm-hmm.
I am rather proud of the fact that I didn't know it was Ariana Grande. Because I never paid attention to her. And so it's just this super skinny white blonde girl. And I kind of feel like, what I did know of Ariana Grande, she wasn't trying to be that. I mean, maybe she is now, but super skinny white girl appealed to that
Yeah.
kind of deal.
That deal. That whole deal.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just like, this person is awful. I mean, why would anyone want to be around this person? That whole popular sound, but obviously I'm not like the target audience for that whole part of society where
Yeah, no, you're not. And but it's interesting because there is this whole like team Elphaba, team Glinda feeling of like people who relate more to Glinda's character, or make a lot of excuses for her, right? Because they do side on she's just becoming woke. I mean that's kind of how people are reading this whole story is like, oh well, she's just realizing her privilege, and she's just realizing how the system works against people like Elphaba, and just becoming more empathetic, and you have to give her a chance to develop as a character and to realize how awful she is, right?
I mean, so not knowing what is going to happen in the second part. I mean, it's not like my guess isn't going to be correct. It's not really that complicated a story, but like the only thing that could be redeeming for, I mean, it could be a story of becoming woke, which would be great, but it doesn't appear to be that, because at the beginning of Wicked we see her coming down and sort of, when asked the question, does she know Elphaba? And she says yes, but she kind of distances herself, and of course in The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch is dead. And so it isn't, it does not appear to be a redeeming story for Galinda. And there was a possibility of that. I mean, I kind of like that as far as storytelling. A character who has a chance and doesn't take it. I mean, obviously, with the whole thing with Wicked, it's like, who is really wicked? Is it Michelle Yeoh's character? I don't. Do you know her character's name?
Morrible.
Morrible?
Madame Morrible.
Like, is she the wicked one? Obviously with the story of Wicked, Elphaba is not the one who's really wicked, right? And is it the wizard? Certainly you could say that the main villain of the story is Morrible or the wizard, but really it's someone who has a chance for redemption and doesn't take it. That's the most wicked, right? Someone who it's kind of like, yes, Morrible.
It's
Morrible.
rhymes with horrible.
Morrible and the wizard are wicked, but they kind of seem to be shallower characters, right? Like, we'll see what happens in the second part, but we don't have that same kind of sense of like we do with Glinda, of her really wrestling with it and choosing the side of power, right? That's what she was after all throughout. Like, her story is a pursuit of power. She wants to be popular because it gives her power. She wants to be a witch, sorcerer, because it gives her power. When faced with a choice at the end of Wicked Part 1, the movie, she has a choice, and she chooses instead to go with power, right? So that's the story, who really is wicked. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned to you before, when we were after we saw the movie, it's a postmodern story, because it actually does consider like what created the situation that we have, right? And it's not black and white, and people want it to be black, white, good versus evil. This is clearly evil. This is clearly wicked. She's green and wears all black and rides around on the broom. So clearly she's evil, right? But how did she get there, right? And so, yeah. Is this why you want to talk to me? I will start.
That's talking. Right, because you do start talking. You can't help it. Because you're so wise.
And I don't know about that.
Have lots of good thoughts. It's the author of Wicked, the book, certainly wants, he's been interviewed and he said, this is what I want people to talk about, is what makes someone wicked. Like, what makes someone, is anyone truly evil? And then is there some kind of explanation for how they get there? And he was very interested in creating this backstory for Elphaba as someone called Wicked Witch, right? Like, it very much was, he looked at this movie and he watched this woman. He's like, what if this story was told differently? What if the way that she's portrayed in Wizard of Oz is all biased, right? Like it's all prejudicial. We're automatically, I mean, she's called the Wicked Witch, so we're going to automatically assume certain things about her. What if that assumption is wrong? What if we don't know? What if we don't really know her story and why she's doing what she's doing? And it becomes a good thought exercise and like what we really believe about people and the evil things that they do. And on the other side, why do we call certain people good? Like we just automatically assume that Glinda is good and that she's trying to do her best. And we just kind of let her get away with a lot because of, and he even brings this up more in the book apparently, like, you know, this idea of like she's beautiful, she's blonde. I mean, blonde is very much a part of the description, and so it's like, well, you know, it's like he's going. I mean, he's just going for it, like, and he's a white dude, and he's just like, there's definitely part of the thought process. It's like the way you look also contributes to how people perceive you. And so if you're automatically assuming certain things about people based on what they look like, I mean, it's very much like that label of if you call someone Wicked Witch, like that's their name, the common folk of the world are going to assume certain things about that person without any further, you know, investigation on their part. It's like, okay, we're just gonna, you know, Madame Morrible at the end. This woman, she's green and she's evil. And everyone just goes, okay, she is. And then they act accordingly.
I was curious to know what and you will have a better sense of this. I have no sense of it. I mean, I could guess of what the sort of MAGA response to Wicked or the, you know, white evangelical response is, because you know my guess is that prior to the movie, like the movie of course is going to have a much broader audience than the musical did,
yeah.
right? And
yeah.
So I don't think it's, and just based on, you know, trying to get tickets and how packed out the theaters were for Saturday, and it seems like it's gonna do well.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. And like there's you know, obviously the little girl kind of Wizard of Oz, you know, Good Witch, you know. Anyway, the appeal seems like it's going to be much broader than, you know, theater going musical kind of reach, which as a musical it did extremely well too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I mean, I would imagine that, you know, the Marjorie Taylor Greene type folks are going to denounce it as woke.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And, which, you know, I make no apologies for making this political, because that has been the fault of people in my former position, pastors in the conservative evangelical world have made, is to not engage with politics. But that's a different conversation.
It's a different conversation.
But you know, so just to, you know, and didn't you say something about how the author said it's even more applicable to today in 2024 than when he wrote it back in 95?
Yeah.
And so, like, you think about like today's characters, like Trump, and like Trump is a shallow character, right? I mean, he's not a well-developed character. Like, if you're writing that character, like, he's, you know, the wizard or whatever, right? I mean, he's you know, shallow and scared and
Has no magic.
projecting power that he doesn't have, and so, and then I don't know who the Morable would be. I mean, I haven't paid close enough attention to the people he surrounds himself with, like Steve Bannon, although someone will know better than me what Steve Bannon's trajectory has been like. But the question is like, it's, I just got emotional. Is there someone like me who was caught up in the, the GOP was very different, 20 years ago when I was following my uncle, and for the listener, he was very political, and he was appointed to the Justice Department by George H.W. Bush, and I always wanted to be like him, and we were alike, and so I just followed him into, what I thought was a thoughtful, conservative, Republican world, and, white, evangelical, conservative, and, like, so is there someone who, like me, who was in that, who could then look at the situation and faced with the choice of, am I going to side with what I was told all along is wicked, and I see that it's not, or am I just going to, take the blue pill and mix my stories here? Go back to living in a world where I'm not challenged by what is potentially wicked or not, right? It's like I was accused recently on social media of, sounding woke, and I was like, damn right I'm woke, and I want more people to wake up to the dangers of, conservatism, white evangelical conservatism in particular. So, that's, that's the story of Wicked, right?
Yeah.
And are you going to fight something which very well could be a losing battle, because it's right? Obviously we know that she loses, that Elphaba loses, and man, it would be stupid but very unsurprising if they try to have a Wicked Part 3 where Elphaba's not dead. But they shouldn't, right? But are you going to fight for what's right? And we didn't get into the fact that, in the movie, Elphaba is portrayed by a black woman, and how that factors against the very whiteness of Galinda. Linda. I liked that.
I know you did. Of all the characters, like you were the goat.
Is that because of the gray beard?
No, it's the author of the book, Wicked, has certainly said that his book was meant to be political. It's meant to be, socio-political, in that he was definitely wrestling with the issues of racism, prejudice, how it affects the systems that we have in place, and the messages that we get, like who gets to write history, who gets to tell us the story. It made me think of the line in Hamilton where, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. It's like we get a certain story, we just accept it as that's the narrative of what happened, but we don't always know. We don't always know what else has happened up until that point.
Or for me and my types, the beginning of Braveheart, where
yes, your types.
where it says that
Robert the Bruce says
that history was written by those who hanged heroes.
Yes.
I think that's what it says.
Yes, it is. History is written by those who hanged heroes, and I mean, you know, that's the story of Alphabet, right? So like we know, and the author did not change the ending. Like we know that Alphabet eventually dies, right? And so we have that kind of hanging over our heads this whole time, like what she has done all this time.
I think,
so, yeah,
I think to the point of history, and I mean, one of the benefits of social media and you know, I'm just saying this to make you like me more, but no, I actually believe it. I believe, you know, your stance that social media is not the evil that people want to portray it is. But one of the benefits of social media in this is that so much more of the story will be preserved of sort of, you know, resistance, right? I mean, you cannot erase the millions of people who are making it publicly known that they stand in opposition to the dangerous political landscape that we live in. Yeah, so, or, you know, I mean, as much as I think you interviewing me and it going out onto the web is I don't know, fruitless. I mean,
thanks, honey. Thanks for your support. Glowing recommendation from my work.
You know what I mean.
I know.
It does. You know, it's not. This obviously isn't going to reach dozens. There's dozens of us, but it does add to the, you know, the millions who are putting something out there that says that
the public record
that
yes.
You know,
I mean, maybe
MAGA and white evangelicalism is dangerous.
Yes, and maybe like 100 years from now, someone will come across my podcast, like, oh look, somebody stood up for this.
Anyway.
You never know.
So yeah, I enjoyed Wicked. I thought it dragged a little bit in the middle. There's too much of that, like, let's appeal to, you know, children, like not children, like adolescent kind of, and
yeah.
you know, people in their 20s who are still in their adolescence, and sort of like love story, and I'm just like, oh, I could take a nap right now, but it finished really strong, and I think you should see it. Thanks for tuning in.